Good morning to everyone. It is an honor to be here in this International Data Protection Day, which is always a great opportunity to have a look at our foundations and lessons learned, reflect on the progress we have made, and reaffirm our shared commitments to embrace the challenges and opportunities for the future. I will introduce myself. I am Beatriz de Anchorena, head of the DPA in Argentina, and I recently assumed as chair of Convention 108, of the Committee of Convention 108. So, new winds from the south are coming to Convention 108. I am not a lawyer. I am a political scientist with a master in public policy. So my views will come from that angle. And as I say this, I want to take the opportunity to stress the importance of having multidisciplinary debates, multidisciplinary dialogues around data protection. So to start, before we dive in the future plans of Convention 108, I would like to share with you my perspective as an Argentinian chair of this international committee that for so long was perceived as European, but that it hosts 55 countries that adhere to this convention, 8 countries that are observers, and 21 institutions that are also observers to the convention. My first step into this committee was in November 2022. I took office in March of that year in Argentina, And from the beginning, I had the full commitment to add value to this global instrument. In that path, I pushed the approval of Convention 108 Plus through the Congress in Argentina, and in June 2023, I personally deposited the instrument of ratification to the authorities of the Council of Europe. So, in that year, Argentina became the 23rd state to ratify Convention 108 Plus. Now we have 31 ratifications, 31 states, and we need 7 more in order to come into force. And a lot of those 7 more are members of the European Union. To briefly recap our history in data protection, Argentina was the first Latin American country to have a data protection law in the year 2000. Now we are involved in an incremental modernization of regulations regarding data protection. This process involves, in one hand, a project for a new personal data protection law with the aim of harmonizing with international standards, extraterritoriality, and new legal basis, for example. This project was sent to Congress in 2023 after an open, transparent, and participatory process with 11 roundtables discussions and a public consultation with strategic sectors of society. On the other hand, through ratification of Convention 108 Plus, our country has made considerable changes in the domestic legislation and will continue to do so. For example, enlarge the definition of sensitive data, introduce new data subject rights, introduce accountability requirements and obligations for controllers, notably in the case of data breach, and to strengthen the DPA's autonomy. Also, Argentina was the first Latin American country to have an adequacy decision in 2003. And now, since the renewed adequacy decision from the European Commission in January 2024, we are still a safe country for the personal data transfers from the European Union. But we also have contractual clauses for data flows since 2016, And in 2023, we adopted the modern Ibero-American Network Contractor clauses. So soon we will adopt the clauses from Convention 108, having a set of instruments to implement data flow with trust. There is no doubt, therefore, that Convention 108, although it has the Brussels effect on its trajectory, we cannot deny it is also a guiding framework for countries with different realities. We have this heterogeneity represented in the Bureau of the TPD. We have Germany, Italy, Croatia, Senegal, Uruguay, and Argentina. And if we want to get global, we must continue working to embed more visions that want to add value to this common ground. This doesn't mean that all countries will have the same reality or the same vision. Of course, there are different regulation paradigms, varieties of data protection regulation. Sure, you have heard varieties of capitalism or varieties of democracy. Now we have varieties of data protection regimes. I also have a strong conviction that currently the protection of privacy and personal data is growing in the international agenda. And more than ever, if we think about convergence or interoperability, Convention 108 Plus is very necessary to have a global answer to the challenges that come. In this context, we must address the old challenges and the new ones. If we think about long-standing challenges, we must point out that technological progress and access to new technologies is not homogeneous in all parts of the world. As we know, there are diverse geographical, cultural, and regulatory contexts that result in varying approaches to technological adoption. In other words, there are digital and educational gaps, and consequently, unequal access to rights that demand us to focus on vulnerable populations. If we think about new challenges, they are enormous. But in my point of view, the real challenge is the data protection governance in times of strong geopolitical changes. Some of the questions are: how can we close the gap between developed countries and developing countries? Is data protection a milestone to measure development? If so, it is important that developed countries do not throw out the ladder. As Chand points out, developing countries must be able to climb the same ladder, to have the same opportunities. How can we achieve a common ground for people to be safe, no matter their nationality in the digital era? The answer is a global instrument, and we have it in our hands. It's Convention 108 Plus. We don't pretend full homogeneity, but a common floor and the respect for the diverse sovereign countries' decisions. As we move towards the challenges of the future, this common ground or convergence floor today can be Convention 108 Plus. And this is possible because of a long story that began 44 years ago with Convention 108, the first binding treaty to set out the basic principles for ensuring privacy and data protection based on respect for the rule of law, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. As in Argentina, Convention 108 Plus has been essential in updating the domestic legislation. The same will happen in other places. It is a trigger to modernize many local legislations around the world, being a reference and an inspiration for countries with different levels of privacy regulations. For that purpose, my role is to chair this truly international, open and inclusive group of experts and state representatives in a multilateral setting to contribute to an appropriate protection of human dignity in the digital age and facilitate free flow of data between like-minded countries. There is a quite robust work done in the past years, which remains equally ambitious for the rest of the work program. Just to mention one remarkable achievement to which many of you who I see in the room contributed, have actively contributed. We have the adoption of 3 modules of model contractual clauses for the transfer of personal data from parties to Convention 108 to non-parties. In this way, standard contractual clauses are an increasingly valuable instrument that lead towards the convergence of tools. Our committee is also taking a leading role on some high relevant knowledge issues through expert reports on privacy-enhancing technologies, PETs, also has recently launched a new work stream on large language models that are becoming increasingly relevant tools to promote the responsible deployment of AI and safeguard individual rights. Moreover, the committee has already started developing guidelines on data protection in neuroscience. These are all reasons to be proud of the work till today. But this International Data Protection Day is also a great opportunity to have a look at our next steps. To follow our common goals, we need to plan ahead, strategically and prospectively. And one of our common goals must be to continue building a strong, binding, enforceable, and global Convention 108+ to end up with the double standard of the big technological companies. In this sense, strengthening data protection and privacy requires broadening multilateral dialogue and public-private articulation with multiple stakeholders, companies, civil society, academic, and the public sector, so that the discussion results in a beneficial change to achieve institutional agreements. This dialogue will also involve GPA and other networks. Furthermore, this means updating our social contract, where democracy and data protection goes hand in hand. Also, in a time of increasing integration of artificial intelligence systems in different social fields, we must continue building new fields of knowledge to address the ethical, regulatory, social, and technical challenges of the future, and strengthen capacity building to face the new challenges such as neurotechnologies. There is also a significant work being done in this field for the committee to study the impact of neurotechnology on privacy and the protection of personal data under the framework of Convention 108, its potential privacy breaches and how to mitigate them. So the following panel, that is called What is in Your Mind? Neuroscience and Data Protection, is a sample of this work to broaden knowledge and reflect about the risks and opportunities that emerging technologies can offer to society. And to close up, finally, I will tell you what is in my mind today. And it is to bring Convention 108+ into force. And for that, we need the ratification of more European countries. I know that, of course, GDPR has undoubtedly set a model and a benchmark for data protection. And you are all very proud of that. But if we want to go global, The instrument is Convention 108+. I am convinced that there are more countries willing to make the necessary commitments and efforts to bring their domestic legal frameworks in line with this global and multilateral standard. I invite you all to continue to join us, engage, and follow our work. Today, it is more important than ever to redouble our efforts and continue strengthening our impact to make better lives for our people. I want to thank my predecessors in the chair of Convention 108, Alessandra Pierucci and Elsa Meyer. We are all women. They did a fantastic job. And I also want to thank Peter Campion, our committee secretary that does the hard work. And thank you to you very much for your attention, and have a nice Data Protection Day.